So before we do, I'll just give you a quick reminder of the key principles that the retrofitting stream identified as important to focus on when making recommendations here. So those key principles were that they should be evidence-based, creating solutions for the long term, that the solutions will deliver the greatest impact, be economically/financially fair, support behaviour change, and be cost effective. Some of you will notice that that's actually 6, not 5, but that was because a few were equally ranked. So we are first going to hear from Anitas Group, and I think that there's Sue in Anitas Group who's going to tell us about the resolution and conditions they were talking about that was focused on linking council tax and business rates to energy efficiency performance. So Anitas Group and Sue, can we hear from you, please?
Hi. Hi. I don't seem to be... that's better. Thank you. I'm trying to get up the board so I can...
Okay.
It's decided not to load up the board. Okay. Right. Condition 1 was on condition the councils advertise. It's just disappeared off altogether. Hopefully it'll come back.
Will it help if I share the board? Shall I share the board?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Anita. Because I've got nothing at the moment, sorry.
Can you see that, Sue?
No.
Can anybody else see that?
Yeah, so Sue's having a bit of internet connection issues at the moment. Anita, would you mind just feeding back on Sue's behalf, please? Sorry about that, Sue, I know that's a little bit frustrating.
Sure. Okay, so
no problem.
Oh, can you see now, Sue?
No.
Go.
Okay, so Anita.
Nothing. I can't see anything. Sorry.
Okay. So
we'll hear from Anita on behalf of Sue. Thank you.
So as you can see here, we're looking at Resolution 1. In principle, we support introducing policies that link council tax and business rates to energy efficiency. And why this is important for encouraging people to retrofit their homes, properties, or business premises to reduce carbon emissions. And why should the wider membership of the Assembly support it? So as you can see here, it makes it an ever-present concern for every member of society rather than a few, and demonstrates that Devon's council supports retrofitting. It helps people to save money and with the cost of retrofitting, and makes the whole retrofitting process a little less expensive, and brings the problem in front of people so that they can't ignore it. It will give businesses and the general public confidence to not only look at energy efficiency, but also to start to implement the changes. So let's just move through to some of the conditions. So condition 1, that councils advertise and prove that the work is taking place to a high standard. And some of the reasons why are because otherwise people will treat it like anything else, trying to get their money and just forget about it. The importance of campaigning was brought through as well, bringing it into people's everyday monthly council lives of, why council tax and business rates helps people to realise change is needed and encouraged. And combined with campaigning done well, it's likely to spark a wave of enthusiasm for DIY and house renovation. And other sources of advertisement like Facebook to target advertising across Devon. Some of the tweaks was around the marketing and the campaign, and that most people are motivated if given a financial incentive. So condition 2, that VAT is removed from items used for retrofitting. Some of the tweaks were, but watch that discount products don't lead to poorly fitted results. And we had a bit of a conversation about how VAT would work. encourages people to retrofit by giving a discount of sorts on items needed. Money saved could go towards servicing people to do it properly, so you don't have to spend more money on it in the future. It would make retrofitting products cheaper to install, and maybe also looking at removing VAT from installer invoices. That the Assembly should support this, as it could make retrofitting cheaper for individuals in the long run, and that discounts are motivators. And if we don't offer incentives, people won't make the effort because of the interruption to daily life in order to achieve the retrofit objectives. Installers' labour cost ought to be zero VAT. Okay, condition 3, that there is recognition that builders are not all the same. It needs to be levelled up, so the poorest rated buildings are done first. Some of the feedback on here on that is at a glance, landlord fines would just hike up the tenant prices, but support the other way will increase. But support the other way will create a gap that still allows for reasonable living, because the most needed buildings are creating the most carbon pro rata to other buildings. Giving people a narrow choice for the energy on rented or owned buildings give less leeway for people refusing to help towards the emergency at hand. Support needs to be in place to help people to do it without putting them in debt. Implement fines to landlords who flat out refuse to help towards energy efficiency buildings, because they are probably the biggest factor in getting carbon zero buildings. Shall I move to the next slide? I'm just wondering about time, Dom.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just need to hear the some headline reasons, Anita, so that we can.
Okay. So condition 4, that more focus is put on green mortgages. It gives first-time buyers an actual in rather than being kept out for as long as they are encouraged to pursue that decision. I think that is. What is a green mortgage? Make sure people understand what this is and its benefits, and then, okay, encourages buyers to consider what buildings they buy, and sounds inviting to younger people who may not know much about mortgages to begin with. And then 5, that DIY is encouraged with experts, then able to undertake an assessment of impacts. And so the reasons why this may be a good idea is because it lets people judge for themselves what's affordable or not, and take action in accordance with that. But also that DIY is only acceptable when the work is carried out efficiently, and gives people a sense that they are helping towards zero carbon emissions, even when they can't afford to service someone to do it for them. Surveyors need to be there before to map out what needs to be carried out, and after the work done to make sure it's done up to a certain standard. Yeah, that's us.
Great. Thank you very much, Anita. And apologies to Sue, who wasn't able to feedback there, just because of some tech issues. I think we're going to hear from Simon's group next. I think it was Ben in Simon's group who's going to be feeding back or telling us about the resolution and conditions that was focused on using planning permission as a trigger point for retrofitting. So Ben, we hear from you, please.
Yep, so we looked at 2 resolutions and 4 conditions. So the first resolution was that in principle, we support introducing policies that use planning permissions to trigger the need for retrofitting measures. This is important because it targets those who are most able to carry out the required measures and who would otherwise be increasing emissions, for example, via extensions. And it also encourages us to change our behavior, where we prioritize lowering emissions over luxuries like aesthetics and having more living space. And the second resolution was that in principle, we support the use of regulation to require people to retrofit their home, which is a step toward making everyone get involved. It's not optional for us to improve our efficiency. So the first condition was that it's on the condition that cost of the measures is in relation to the size of house and extensions. That's in regard to the planning permission resolution. We think the wording of that's fine. It's important because we want this to be fair. We don't want to force people making small changes to their homes to have to carry out the same measures as those having large extensions. And we want to still encourage affordability so that people aren't completely priced out of any kind of extension. So condition 2, on the condition that affordability is taken into account. So this is about the required measures. Again, I think the wording's fine, and it's important because the wider public won't support these measures unless they're seen to be affordable. And some areas of retrofitting may be able to be carried out as do-it-yourself rather than contractors. So kind of considering the affordability of how people install the measures. The third condition was that it's on the condition that energy consumption of new extension needs to be offset as a minimum and ideally reduced. We would want to change the wording of this to be that the energy consumption of the whole property needs to be reduced substantially in proportion to the size of the extension. So just offsetting the new carbon emissions from the extension isn't enough. We really want to be taking it a step further. And again, this is important because it is about kind of prioritizing reducing emissions over having more space. And the final one, condition 4, is that it's on the condition that conservatories and permitted buildings should be included. So again, with the planning permission, this because the wording originally mostly talked about extensions. We thought the wording of this was fine, and it's important because conservatories, even if you don't need planning permission to build one, they can negatively impact the efficiency of your house, and they'd also cost money. So the people who are likely to be able to install conservatories could also be able to install these energy efficient measures.
Great, thank you very much, Ben, and those in Simon's group. And next we're going to hear from, I think it's first of all Jill in Hallies Group, and they were focused on the financial support for retrofitting. So is it Jill first in Hallies Group that we're hearing from?
Yeah, it's Jill and then Susie.
Great, thanks. Over to you, Jill.
Hang on a moment. So resolution 4, in principle, we support there being financial supports available for people to retrofit properties across Devon. And why is this important for encouraging people to retrofit? We felt that the upfront costs are quite large, and it won't happen unless it's financially supported, unless you're very wealthy. So that's to kind of equalise it a bit. It also shows that the authorities are taking it seriously if they put the money into this, into retrofitting houses. So that's the resolution. Now over to Susie.
Thanks, Jill. And yeah, over to Susie.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't expecting it that soon. Okay, so we had, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
So we had 3 our overarching statements, I think, and then a few conditions. So the overarching statement 1, we think that existing financial supports are not effective in encouraging people across Devon to undertake retrofitting work in their property. This was very strongly agreed with because, as we heard in the overview just now, the existing financial supports at the moment are really only available to people who are vulnerable or on benefits, so limiting the range of eligible applicants. As heard again, people just aren't aware of what's available, and the support is very fragmented, so it's a mix of support, it's not sectionalised, and it makes it challenging to get any information to achieve a complete building retrofit. Overarching statement 2, we believe that the amount of financial support available across Devon to encourage people to undertake retrofitting and energy efficiency improvements on their buildings should be increased. Again, this is 95% of people agreed with this in the group, and we talked about the upfront costs, and this will also enable people to act immediately, which is necessary as this is a climate emergency. The third overarching statement was, we believe that financial supports that would encourage people to undertake retrofitting and energy efficiency improvements on their buildings should be more inclusive and available to more residents, i.e. not just the vulnerable or fuel poor. And again, this was hugely well supported because we're all on the same ship, which is sinking. It's a really serious situation. Authorities need to show it's eligible to everyone and set an example. It needs to be fair from everyone, and all the things we've said before. So the supporting recommendations, number 1, we tweaked the wording a little bit. So we've said there needs to be widespread education and awareness raising about, number one, the climate emergency, number two, what actions authorities are taking, and number three, what people can do to retrofit and improve energy efficiency and what impact that will have. The second supporting recommendation, we again tweak the wording just slightly. There needs to be centralised, i.e. Devon-based, easily accessible and publicised information with website or phone support and also phone support regarding measures that can be taken and the types of support available. Supporting recommendation 3, there needs to be personalised advice available about options for your home and the financial support available. And supporting recommendation 4, all authorities need to demonstrate ambition and allocate significant budget to retrofitting, which must also include, we said, training. And the point that local authority planners and decision makers need to be fully trained and kept up to date with all the regulations. And finally, supporting recommendation 5, there needs to be more accountability and reporting regarding government expenditure on retrofitting with progress reports, e.g. the amount of money spent, percentage towards the targets reached, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susie and Jill from Hallies Group. So those were the resolutions and conditions and overarching statements that came out of the retrofitting stream. Thank you to all of those in the retrofitting stream for all your hard work on those.